Good morning. I'm John Hinkle, Senior Pastor of First Presbyterian Church, and this is your daily devotion. Sorry about yesterday's daily devotion. I forgot Bobby was still out of town, and I forgot to do it. But that's okay. It's good to be with you. It's Friday. It's Casual Friday. When I'm saying Casual Friday, usually that means I'm in shorts and a fishing shirt and a visor. But usually what we do on Friday is just figure out what. Usually before the pandemic, what we did on Friday was make sure everything was ready for Sunday. We're slowly getting back to that same routine. I got to finish up my sermon and do a few other things before we get ready for Saturday. But I hope everybody's doing well as we continue to kind of transition into this new normal. This Sunday is our first Sunday back in the sanctuary. We reservations, I think, are closing or have closed. So hopefully everybody filled it out correctly, which I know that's not the case. So we'll find out who didn't fill out their reservations correctly Sunday. So, but having said that, I'm excited to have everybody back. I'm excited to see everybody this Sunday. And so as we get ready for this Sunday worship, some of the things I've been thinking about throughout this pandemic, but even as we come closer, is just kind of how historical this moment was. My grandmother lived through the influenza virus and pandemic, and when she was a child, she also lived through, the Great Depression, and she lived through World War I and World War II, and she lived through a lot. And I'm sure she could look back on her life and say, hey, these are these kind of historic moments that happened in my life. One of the things that I've been doing in the pandemic, and maybe some of y'all been doing that too, is reading. One of the books I read was To Count Our Days by Erskine Clark. Remember Dr. Clark came and spoke. He was my professor of church history at Columbia Theological Seminary. He's written such books as The Dwelling Place and By the River's Edge. And so To Count Our Days, I know some of y'all are going to think this is a snoozer, but it's the history of Columbia Theological Seminary. But it's not a snoozer. It's really a fascinating look at the creation of a religious institution. And one of the things that I think hit me about as I was reading Dr. Clark's book is that those men and women who formed and shaped Columbia Theological Seminary believed that they were doing something historic or historical. How about that? Historical. They believed that not only were they having an impact on that day, but they were going to have an impact on the days to come. And I think that's one of the things that we've been called to do as a church. Is we're called not only to have an impact on this day, we're called to have an impact on the days to come. And I think about this pandemic, in some ways that's what we're doing, right? The reason, some of the very decisions that we've made as families, as a church, is for that very reason. To know that decisions we make will impact people for years to come. And I think that, that's kind of one of the burdens and blessings that I have been dealing with, over the past several months is to be mindful that what I am doing is not going to not only impact us as a church, but it will impact the future of this church for years to come. The scripture, it's one of my favorite scriptures. It's Psalm 139, where it begins with that great line, "O Lord, you know me and you've searched me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar." But the line that I think has had the most impact on my life is that notion that that there's not a day that hasn't been written in the book of the Lord. Meaning there's not a day that God doesn't know what is going to happen to me, what's going to happen to you. But that's also a belief that God's providence is one that we can rest in and trust, meaning that whatever happens today, tomorrow, the years to come, it is okay. It's okay because God's got this, and God's got you. And you know that line I've always loved is, "We may not know what the future might hold, but we know the one who holds the future." And so you know, there have been days when I've been worried about how we're going to get back to this new normal, only to be mindful that God already knows what new normal is going to look like, and it's all going to be okay. So listen, have a great Friday. We're going to film Saturday. I think we're going to have a major announcement Sunday that I'm kind of excited about, and we'll plug you into that too. So y'all have a great day.